they've had 8-9 weeks of bowling spin, and a lot of it, and they'll be better players for it. And I think that's a really positive step forward. And I think actually for the guys in the reserves as well, to get the chance to come out here and get the volume of work in that they might not get back in county season is another step forward, and it's something that in the long run could pay huge dividends for the England team and for spin in our country. I think that's a question to be asked closer to the start of our English summer. And what I am impressed with is how he has performed on this trip, Jack. I think he's been brilliant. He's certainly got better and better as the tour's progressed, and he's been a very, very useful, very attacking option, as well as things move forward. Being able to hold the game in periods as well, which has been really pleasing. And
just as a counterpart to that, really, if you could tell us just a bit about Dom and how you've captained him in this match. It looked like you were quite sympathetically captaining him, really, and trying to get him on at good times for him, but it just hasn't quite happened for him, has it?
And look, it might not have fallen for Dom this week, but we all know what he's done already in an England shirt. And for a young guy to have the record that stands up very well, for his age, is very impressive. So, it might have been a tough week for him now, but we all know he can play and he can bowl. And again, it's important that he learns from this experience moving forward. But you look at someone like Swanee, he didn't start playing for England properly until he was nearly 30, and his career is looked back on as an amazing one. And what he achieved was incredible. But he had the opportunity to have 10 years of learning his art and his craft before getting to this stage. You look at someone like Ashwin at 34 years old, he's now looking like he is at the peak of his powers. Granted, on surfaces that are very familiar to him and maybe a little bit more volatile than previous tours that we've experienced. But he is exploiting it extremely well because of the experience that he has and the amount that he's bowled. And I do think that spin is a very different animal to the other facets of the game. You look, someone like Warren looked like he got better and better as he got older. Moralith are very similar. I do think that we've got to remember that these guys are very young, not just in the amount of cricket that they've played, but also young guys. And the more they play, the more experience they gain, the better they will become. So it's important as we are batting, we take everything away from this trip, individually as well as collectively say, right, I'm going to look at this experience for what it was, and I'm going to make myself a better player because of it.
Thank you.
John Etheridge, please.
Joe, hi. The overall record of the tour is 3 wins and 3 losses, but it's the 3 losses came at the end, and it's probably fair to say that the performance is deteriorated, really. But why do you think that is? Was it because of you just ran out of steam, or was it the confidence of the batsman was eroded over the course of the game, or what do you think?
I think there's a number of things. I don't think we reacted to the changing surfaces as well as India did. I think they exploited them better. They found ways of managing the turn and non-turn, if you like, better than we did. But they also exploited it better than us too. I don't think that was a reason for us finishing how it was, but that's played a factor for sure. I do think there have been periods of the games where we found ourselves at parity and India managed to grab them. And generally in the lower scoring test matches, that is the difference. Look at this game, having India 100 odd for 5, or whenever Rishabh Pant walks out for 4. And we have a real opportunity to make that count through some wonderful bowling, early stages of that first innings. And he managed to win that important hour of cricket, if you like. I found him that partnership with him in Washington was very good, and he's such a difficult player to keep quiet because he gets the ball in such unusual areas. We came across some brilliant batting at that stage of the game. So there's just one example of it, but I do think that that's probably where their experience of these conditions, their experience as a whole, and probably just outweighed us and was the difference in a big difference in the factor of this series.
You.
Hello.
Did you say me or is it Simon?
Simon, please.
Hi, Joe. The attack you chose for this game looked like a massive gamble even before the match, really. And it sort of cost you. You sort of ran out of bowlers in the end, didn't you? And Pant took advantage of that. Do you sort of regret that tactic? What was the sort of? It looked like a big gamble. Is that how it felt to you before the game?
No, I think that I looked at the surface. It looked very similar to the game, the pitch before. The previous game. I thought that spin was going to play a massive factor and be the main asset. I think it actually was damper in the middle and held together a lot better in the middle, which meant that there was a little bit of extra bounce, and seam was obviously a lot more threatening option at times. And that was, one of the unfortunate things to say about there was a couple of occasions where you could look back and think, could we have got selection slightly right? It's easy to say that in hindsight, but it was about trying to manage that spin aspect. Can we find ways of having that extra spinner out there on a wicket that we thought was going to turn earlier, turn quicker? So that was the thinking behind it. But I do think the guys put in a remarkable shift, did a wonderful job, and did a great effort for their country.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Cheers.
Dean Wilson, please.
Yeah, hi Joe. I just wonder, there's been a lot of discussions about various perhaps reasons or mitigating circumstances why the result is what it is. I just wonder whether you feel a bit like a sort of hostage to fortune, really, that actually, being successful in India is as much sort of dumb luck as anything else, because, you talk about players learning for next time. I just had a look at the team from 2016. The likes of Hasib Hamid, Keaton Jennings, Ben Duckett, you probably thought might have learnt for next time. Obviously, they're not here. And then other guys in the team like Moeen, Johnny Bairstow, Joss Butler, Chris Wokes, who you'd wanted to have learnt for this time, have only played 4 games between them. So, best laid plans and all that. Is it just a bit of dumb luck, really?
Yeah, I mean, that is the unfortunate aspect of it when it takes 4 years to tour somewhere a second time, is that can happen. But what the one thing that these guys are is, if they have the opportunity to come here again, is that they are prepared for it and that they are ready for it, and they remember these experiences and they take something from this so that they're a better player, and not just for a better player for here, but other places around the world. I know I mentioned this in other times when we've spoken after games. It could be that on a 5th day wicket we need 40, 50 to win, 7 down. And because of this experience, a couple of the guys at the back end of the game have found a way to win when potentially shouldn't have. So it's really important that, as a whole, of course, it'd be nice if it is a very similar side and it's very settled and very experienced next time we come around here, like that side that won in 2012 was. But if it isn't, there's still ways that we can become a better player because of this experience and a better team. So that's really important. We take it from that point of view.
And I also just wondered, on the checks and balances of this year, you've said that you're looking after players, their health first and foremost, and, there are 3 formats to think of and stuff like that. When you get to Australia and at the end of the year, if you win the first test in Brisbane, if it is at Brisbane, do you think you're likely to make 4 changes after a winning team, or do you think that what you did here was a sort of necessity to make sure that you don't have to do that in Australia?
I think we'll have. I do think that if we are in a bubble environment, there will be an element of this that will carry over. But I do think that it's important that we learn from that and this tour as a whole, and try and make it better and improve it moving forward as well. It'd be silly for us to look at this and not try and make it better the next time, the next tour, the next series. So that there will be a number of things to consider going into that. And it'd be very naive of me to make a comment now about it when it does deserve a lot of time, attention, and thought before any decisions are made on it.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers, Steve.
4 more now, please. Nikhil, Shashwat, Anuj, and then finally Stefan. Nikhil, please.
Yeah, Joe, hi. Indian coach Ravi Shastri on air actually said that the scoreline doesn't suggest the outcome of the series. And England also played very well. What he tried to mean to say that the series was very close. Do you agree with his views that you had your enough chances and you could not capitalize on them throughout the series?
Yeah, I think that, as I mentioned, there have been times when we've had a chance to wrestle the game in our favour and to get on top, and we just didn't manage to do it. I think India played those important key moments better than us in these last 3 games, and they deserve the credit, for being able to do that better than we could. So I know that there was a huge amount of effort. I know what's gone into it from our group. It's certainly not been for the results have certainly not been for lack of effort or character. I think we stood up very well in that respect, but unfortunately we're outskilled by some very talented players in these conditions.
Shashwat now, please.
Good evening, Joe.
Good evening.
I have a couple of questions. So firstly, a lot of excellent batsmen of spin bowling, including you talk about Virat Kohli or Cheteshwar Pujara in this series, or even say someone like a Steve Smith against Jadeja, have relatively middling records against left arm spin. So what do you think is making batting against left arm spin so difficult in the test arena these days? Is it the introduction of the DRS, or are there any other factors?
I certainly think that that's helped for the spinners in particular. DRS, I think more decisions are being given now, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think that's just the way it is. You have to play with your bat a lot more. You can't just defend with your front pad and sort of put your bat next to it and hope that that's enough to say that you're playing a shot. I do think as well, I can only speak on my experiences, and Axar in particular this series has been very accurate. He's asked very good questions. He's been relentless with his length, and some balls have skidded, some balls have spun quite big, and you've got to just try and find a way of managing it that well. Because of his height, it makes it quite hard to sweep. When someone the ball's turning, it's quite hard to get down to at the pace that he bowls. He's sort of stock pace, and we just got to keep looking at ways in trying to manage that well. And as soon as it felt, the frustrating thing was, as soon as it felt like we were getting on top of that, we'd lose a wicket, and we weren't able to build those big partnerships that we know are so important. I do think that as there always has been, there will be trends to Test cricket. I think it will sort of go up and down in favour of different things at certain parts in time over the course of 100 years. But it's been, you still, as a player and as a team, you've still got to maximise your opportunities, and I think that India did that well this time around.
Okay, so you in one of the earlier questions, you talked about how the county circuit and how that probably you need to create more pitches where the spinners actually come into play. So a lot of the English batsmen actually have white ball gigs around the world. You talk about the BBL or the IPL. Do you feel something of that sort when it comes to red ball cricket or duration cricket would actually help people like, say, Zach Crawley, Dom Sibley, Ollie Pope in getting better at playing spin or in adverse conditions in general?
I think any experiences of coming over here and playing are going to make you a better player. That we've been on previous tours. We've been blessed when we've had the opportunity to train and have net bowlers. Some of the talent that's come and bowl. There's been some wonderful players that wouldn't necessarily be playing or anywhere near some of the domestic sides here in India. Any experience of getting a chance. And I was fortunate as a youngster having a tour here with the Lions, and then the following winter I got the chance to come here as a first Test tour. But I remember, because of those experiences, because I experienced facing high volumes of spin, I had that to fall back on and learn from. So the more that can happen, that will certainly improve things. In terms of county cricket, I think in general the games last longer. You also learn to deal with more scenarios. You have to manage different parts of the game. You have to, as I say, produce. I imagine we'll actually produce faster bowlers more frequently, because you can't just run up and hit an area for a period of time. You've either got to be extremely consistent, or you've got to have a different way of find a different way of taking wickets, and that might be by bowling quicker, consistently. So there are a number of reasons why I think that's going to be important too. But yeah, that certainly coming here and having experience of these conditions certainly improved my game against spin. But I know that there's still areas that I need to work on and get better at. So next time, hopefully, I come back here and I can score more runs.
Thank you, Joe.
Two more very quick questions, please, because we have to go and do a TV interview before the satellite goes down. So Anuj and Stefan, one question each, please, very quick. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Do you mention like Leach as one of the positives from the Test series? How about Ben Foakes? Like looking at how he has performed behind the stumps and with the bat, can he be your long-time wicketkeeper?
I think Ben's keeping this series has been excellent. I think he's arguably the best keeper in the world, the wicket glove. I think he's a wonderful glove runner. He's a fine player. He's a great person to have within our squad. Now that's a decision that we'll make further down the line. But Josh is a very experienced player. He's done extremely well in the last year, and his performances have probably been the best that they have been in the most recent times. So it's great to have that competition for places. It makes you a better team. And Ben has certainly done himself a lot of favours in the way he's played in this series.
And finally, Stefan, please. Thank you.
Hello, Joe.
Hi, Stefan.
I think we all appreciate the need to look after the players' physical and mental well-being. But you look at things like Johnny going well in Sri Lanka, then going home, coming back and registering 3 ducks in 4 innings. The way Moeen's rest came about and the consequences that had for Dom Bess. Was the rotation policy too rigid? Could it have been handled better? And in some instances, did it cause more problems than it solved?
Again, it's easy to sit here, a bit like we talk about selection. It's easy, and looking at the surfaces, it's easy to look at it now and pick apart all of the things that potentially could be better for it. I do think it's important that next time we learn lessons from this time around. But again, it was all done in the best interest of the England team and the 3 formats moving forward for the whole year. Of course, it's not an ideal, perfect scenario. As a captain, you always want all of your players available for selection as often as possible. And that's not been the case on this tour. But I also think that you talk about we've got to get away from that. I suppose that stage of just playing people until they fall over. And yes, we might not get it right all the time to start with, but I do think that we need to move forward and look at a better way. And hopefully we find that better way very quickly. But it is going to be really important that we, with the amount of cricket that we are playing, and having a number of guys that are multi-format, that we look after everyone and we don't get to a stage where guys are severely burnt out and we're losing out on some real talent, and also that they're losing out on the enjoyment factor of the game.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care and speak to you in the 2020s. Thank you. Cheers.